And we want to welcome everybody this evening to our local development council meeting, March 15th. And just excited about having you with us. We want to acknowledge all of our board members and thank you for hanging out with us today. We will be brief. We have 4 different areas that we want to talk about this evening. The first is the committee assignments. The second would be the mid-year reports. The third would be audit findings, and the fourth, oversight. So we want to talk about those things. But what I want to do before we move too far, we want to talk about the committee assignments. I've talked to most of you. Ms. Wilson, I'll be talking to you as soon as we can connect. There's also one other person that we're missing. I've talked to Ms. Brewer. There are 3 different interviews she's doing now, recommendations from Councilman Burrow's office. So we won't be doing anything with that until we receive from her whoever she has chosen to recommend to us. But we have 15 members, we're missing 1. And that's what that process is, and Mrs. Brewer's office is doing that. So what I want to do is deal with the committee assignments that we do have at this point. We have a legislative branch, of course, that's made up of Delegate Turner, Delegate Woods, and Senator Muse. And of course, the role that they play is an extremely important role in terms of trying to do a couple of things. We've of course expanded the 3-mile radius to 6. That wasn't something that they necessarily did at the legislative branch. I think that we just found out that we could do that and did it. However, we are looking to repeal hold harmless, or at least sunset that. Now, what hold harmless is when a casino comes into an area, we have to indemnify other casinos and make sure they're not hurt in the process. And of course,
Pastor Robinson.
Yeah,
That provision was sunset last year.
it was.
Yes.
So now I know that there was a slight change, but that money that was going to them is now coming to the LDC.
Correct. Well, it's coming to the county. Yes. Correct.
Coming to the
Right.
coming to the county, not the LDC.
Correct.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Thank you for letting me know that.
Yes.
I wasn't. That's a surprise there, Brian. I wasn't aware of that. How much money is that?
I don't have that number off the top of my head, but it's more money. That's one of the reasons why the multi-year spending plan has increased.
Yeah, well, you know, while it's increased, also while we're talking about that, the $850,000 should increase too, right?
We that's something to discuss. Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that. I'm glad to hear that that's been repealed. The other thing that we were after is the funding that's coming out of MGM going to the 210 project, of getting that money back to the state. Is there any possibility of that?
You say that one more time.
The funding is going to do the facelift on 210.
Oh, so yeah, so that was a question that was asked when we first got here, and basically the money is being collected, but thus far the money that has been collected would be a drop in the bucket in terms of what would be needed to make any substantive changes on 210. So that money is being collected, and it is slated for 210 changes. But first off, we would have to work with the State Highway Authority to get that done. And also, we would also need to have a lot more money slated for those 210 changes. But that money is there in the event that those plans are developed with 210. I do know that there was a MOU that was finished, I want to say sometime right before COVID, in order to facilitate those changes. But we really have, because back when we asked the question, they basically said, you know, it would be like throwing $5 at, you know, like trying to build a building. So we kind of left it alone there, but we can follow up on that.
Okay, and the other thing we wanted to do, Ryan, I don't know if that's, I mean, this is of course a part of the legislative branch. is to separate the spending, the MGM monies from the general fund. Those were the assignments that we kind of gave to the legislative branch. I'm glad to know that the whole harmless has been repealed, and you've answered the question on 210. So the whole idea now, we've also expanded the 3 mile radius to 6. So the only thing that we really have left is to try to separate the funds coming out of MGM from the general fund to at least push for more transparency so people can understand where the funding is going. So that's the whole gist of the legislative branch, and that would include, of course, Delegate Turner, Senator Muse, and Delegate Woods. Delegate Turner is not with us this evening. I have not heard from Senator Muse's office or Delegate Woods' office, so we'll keep moving, but we are at quorum. So what I want to talk about is the committee assignments. I've not talked to, as I said, I've not talked to Ms. Wilson, but I've talked to pretty much everybody else. The Oversight Committee is made up of myself, Dr. Huggins, and Ms. Lane. Talked to all the 2 of them, and concluded they have the kind of expertise that we need with respect to oversight, the Oversight Committee. The Oversight Committee, of course, the Selection Committee is Kerry Mack, Rashida McElwain, and Dr. Lattimore. Public Relations, we have Ms. Jackson, and Ms. Wilson. I'll need to talk to you about that before we make an assignment there. Needs Assessment is Ms. Bethay and Dr. Pralo. So those are the committee assignments that we have at this point. As I said, we're waiting for one other member, someone who's been recommended by Councilman Burrows. The interview process is taking place. The last time I spoke with the county exec's office, they were still doing the interview. So we're waiting on one person, and then we are at full strength. With that in mind, let's move to the mid-year reports. Now, Nicole, we had a total of 26 reports turned in. 10 were missing at your last report. Do we have the rest of those reports in at this point?
No, sir, we haven't received. I'm sorry, we received 1 after the meeting from last month, so we have a total of 9 more that we're waiting for.
Okay, Ryan, didn't we have 39 grants? Because this list only totals 36. Weren't there 39 grants?
From last year?
Yeah.
I need to check on that number.
Okay, I thought it was 39. So we're missing 3. I don't know who those are, but the missing reports that we have right now. Let me. Community Advocates for Family Youth, Hillside Children's Center, Housing Operations and Planning Enterprise, Kappa Epsilon Education Foundation, People of Change Coalition, Prince George's Arts and Humanities Council, Prince George's Child Resources Center, PTA of Valley View, Renew and Revitalize Marriage and Family Institution, and Denny House. Those are the ones that we're missing. And we really need to move forward and get with these mid-year reports. We do have time, and we need to move forward with the reports that we have. Now, since we're talking about the mid-year reports, I want to talk about audit and inspections for a second. When I first took over, we sent 6 organizations to audit and inspections. We got those reports back. 5 of them were found in the inspections to have misused the money. We came up with a number of different items, and I won't list them all. We have decided. I spoke with the county exec's office this morning with Tara Jackson and Joy, and what we're going to do is ask for this money back first. Give them an opportunity to give the money back. And then after that, if they fail to do so, then we'll forward it on to disposition by either the state's attorney's office or the inspector general's office. But what we found is inadequate board structure, a lack of board oversight, no approval for contractual agreements, incomplete. And this is just stuff that I grabbed out. It's much more than this. Inadequate accounting and no policy or procedures for that accounting, inadequate documentation to support grant expenditures, inadequate or questionable expenditures. In one case for $19,000, cash withdrawals, $500 for a political campaign, funding for cannabis training. And these are all things that are outside of the purpose and use of the money. $103,000 for other purposes, funds listed for a program to or organization, and the organization had no idea of those funding. So these are the kind of things that we are discovering and finding out in our mid-year reports. And we get these reports twice. We get a mid-year report and we get an end of the year report. Dr. Huggins and Ms. Lane have joined me in dealing with the oversight. This is very important for us to understand that there's a lot of abuse with money when people are not oversighted. And it's important that we make certain that this money is spent properly, spent the proper way, and spent in purpose. And any expenditures outside of purpose, the organization has to request and get permission from us before doing so. So we've got a number of things. We sent 6 organizations to audit inspections because we felt that there was clearly some misuse of the funding when you look at the budget. They came back, we found 5 out of the 6 that were actually misusing the funds. And there's some serious cases in how this money was used. We will, of course, strike them from ever getting funding again from the LDC. Also ask for those funds back, and if we can't get the funds back, then we will refer them to State's Attorney's Office or the Inspector General's Office. So that's where we are with that. And the mid-year reports, of course, we talked about audit findings, we talked about, and committee assignments. Now, Ryan, you have alluded to the fact that we, as the LDC, that's $10 million, a little over $10 million coming out of MGM, coming through the LDC. You've alluded to the fact that the LDC does not have responsibility over anything but the $870,000. Can you give us a written something in writing on that?
Something in writing explaining how.
Explain. Well, you've said that we don't have any authority over anything but the $870,000. I find that difficult to.
Well, the authority is to the LDC provides its recommendations through the multi-year spending plan process on how that money should be spent. It provides those recommendations in conjunction with the county council as to how those monies should be spent. And this is all based on the initial proposal that comes from the county executive's office. So okay, that covers the entire VLT revenues from MGM.
Okay.
The money that is slated for the annual grant process, that is money that the LDC has direct authority and say over in terms of which nonprofits would receive funding to perform services within the impact area.
Okay, I'm not talking about who receives funding. I'm talking about the accountability for the money. As you know, we with the schools, when we had the schools, we did extensive research on how that money was spent, who it went to, those kind of things, which I think is extremely important. We found that many of the principals weren't even involved in the process of how the money got spent or what it would be spent on. I mean, I'm talking about oversight in terms of where these dollars are going, who they're going to, those kind of things. I'm struggling in my mind to understand. And I think I'm probably misunderstanding you in terms of the accountability of those funds. Who is getting that money, how that money is being spent. In fact, with the 5 people that we have looked at in audit and inspections, it's clear that this money has been misused. And our initial look at this came from the idea of looking at these mid-year reports and, of course, physical inspections on the sites. And my concern, and I think I'm probably misunderstanding you, my concern is that we need to make certain that these monies are going where they say that they're going to. I think that that is important. And in these 5 that we've looked at, that we recommended through the process of turning in the mid-year and end of the year reports, we discovered that. Now, when we talk about, for instance, employer Prince George's, they have not turned in any expenditures. I think we need to see those. When we talk about the scholarship fund for the schools, they haven't turned anything in. I think we need to see those so that we can interpret that the money is being spent properly, is what my concern is. And I just think we need to truly understand what the role of the LDC is. With $10 million coming through our hands, I think we need to be responsible for, or at least be able to say that we've looked at these funds and where they went, we're satisfied with, is what my concern is. Because as I said, we just found 5 people who, let me give you an example. One of these organizations, $100,000 came through their hands. 50,000 of it was from a nonprofit to a for-profit. The nonprofit is the wife and the for-profit is the husband. The remaining 50,000 went to out of the country to 3 separate organizations. That's what I'm talking about. Just the forensics of making sure that this money gets spent on purpose and for what it's supposed to be spending for. And of course, we're going to ask for that money back if we can't get it back, and then we'll move forward from there. I've talked to the county exec's office this morning, and what I've said to them is what we're going to try to do is get the money back first, and if we can't get the money back, then we go to the state's attorney's office or the attorney general's office to proceed with whatever their investigation finds. So it's just important for me and our oversight of $10 million to make certain this money is going where it's supposed to go. So that's my major concern. And I'd like to, of course, Walter Simmons in Employer Prince George's knows I've been to that site, I don't know how many times, even during the construction period, to make sure that the money was being spent properly and those kind of things. We've had him to give us a report on his progress, and give us a report on his expenditures and those kind of things. And I just think that we need to really outline what the role of the LDC is. I understood, I think I was understanding that we were being minimized to this $870,000. And I think I've misunderstood you on that.
There's been no minimization at all. It's the issue is when it comes to deciding point blank which organizations or which entities receive funding from VLT revenues, the LDC's authority specifically to saying this organization is getting X amount of dollars is limited to the grant process.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes to other entities who may receive funding through the multi-year spending plan, which is the greater pot, the LDC has a role in the process in terms of making suggestions as to where that money should be spent.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always been that way since we started. It was never the LDC decides this organization gets X amount of dollars. It's always been the county executive creates a multi-year spending plan,
Mm-hmm.
submits that to the county council. County council makes recommendations. And then the original spending plan with the county council's recommendations are then transmitted to the LDC. The LDC takes all of that under advisement. Right. And submits its own recommendations back to the county executive, and the county executive takes all the recommendations from the council and from the LDC under advisement, and then submits a final spending plan back to the county council for approval in resolution.
Right.
So nothing with regards to the LDC's role has changed. Now the LDC is certainly welcome to understand like and get some follow-up, which is why we have employee Prince George's come and provide information during some of our LDC meetings so we can understand how's the money being used. But when it comes to making a final decision as to like, okay, well, you're not going to receive this money anymore. Organizations and entities outside of the grant process, the LDC does not have the express authority to do that.
Yeah.
But
that's not
always been that way. It's always been.
That's not my concern. My concern is checking the dollars, making sure that the dollars get spent on purpose and for where they are supposed to be going, which is what I was doing with the schools, and just making certain that those dollars are being spent on purpose,
right,
for purpose, without change. So that's my concern. I understand what you're saying in terms of us making recommendations. My concern is following the money. And when you start looking at the forensics of some of these budgets and how the money is being spent and no oversight, I think that's why we run into what we've been running into in terms of people just kind of doing what they want to do with the money. I mean, $50,000 to hit out of the country with 3 different organizations. If we didn't have any oversight of that, we wouldn't have discovered that, you know. So it's just following the money. I just have a major concern with following the money. As I said, when I first came on and I was brand new to the process, I had mid-year, I think it was the end of year reports put in front of me. An organization received $25,000. $18,000 of it went to a van. The other $7,000 just didn't make sense in the budget. And that organization is gone, doesn't come back, and is gone with an $18,000 van. I think in my mind, that's crazy. But you know, of course, I put that on the table. I don't know what happened to that. Too new and didn't want to make any waves or anything else. But I saw that. And of course, I've had concerns about that. And when the county exec asked me to take this position on, one of the first things I put in place is oversight. And I'm concerned with how the money is flying, how it's flowing, and where it's going. I mean, because if I can get $100,000 contract and head to the Bahamas with my girlfriend, you know, with no oversight. My girlfriend is my wife, for those of you who don't understand that, you know, but, you know, I can head to the Bahamas with my girlfriend, you know, and nobody's oversighting and nobody is seeing that I spent the money. Of course, that's a lot of room for error and misuse and abuse, particularly if there's nobody oversighting. And, you know, as I've said in the last 2 workshops, threaten and said everything I know how to say to make people understand that this money is not to be played with. That's my only concern. I just want to be able, I mean, I trust everything Walter's doing. I've been working with Walter ever since I got on. And the guy is just, I wish I had 7 of him in my church. I could turn the world upside down. But at the same time, it's just important for me to understand where this money is going, for us as an LDC to be accountable and not be embarrassed, not embarrass the county exec or anyone else for that matter, you know, in how we use this money and how this money is being used. So that's my only concern. And so, you know, as long as I'm here, I'm going to keep on chasing the money. You know, if I can get away with going to the Bahamas with my girlfriend, I might do that, but I'm going to keep on chasing the money at this point, you know. Dr. Lattimore, you had your hand raised.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Ryan, thank you for that breakdown. I just have a question. So I'm putting myself in the position of a grantee that has received X amount of dollars. And I guess Walter, because I went down there probably about a month and a half ago. And it's a very nice place to have. They're doing great things for the county. But who, and I guess, what is the county doing or the oversight committee doing to do its due diligence in ensuring that those grantees that we no longer have oversight on go through the same process as everyone that applied for a grant, and that those grantees follow the same rules, because it doesn't seem like it's fair across the board. So I guess my question is, what type of oversight is being provided for those grantees that we no longer have to provide oversight for, since they're moved to Councilman Burrow's office? Who's doing that oversight and tracking them? Or if I've misunderstood it, do they still submit quarterly plans and reports and things like that to us? That's where I'm kind of confused on, because it seems like everyone in the county is required to apply for these grants through a process that the county came up with. So anyone receiving this money should be held to the same standard. So my question is, are they? And if they are, that's great. And if not, why, as a citizen of the county, are they not being held to the same standard?
So just to correct the record here, there are no grantees that are going through Councilmember Burrow's office. Councilmember Burrows is a member of the county council, and he has a vote to assist in deciding where funding should go as part of the multi-year spending plan process. The money that is allocated through the multi-year spending plan process is allocated by the county's Office of Management and Budget. And when Councilmember Burrows made a suggestion that he wanted to change some of the way that we were sending some of that money, one of the first things that we said was, well, we want to make sure that there is oversight and that there is the same sort of vetting process that our typical grant applicants would go through, our grant applicants who are going to be submitting their applications later this week, that they're going to go through the same process that anyone would outside of this multi-year spending plan process. So everyone's going to go through the same amount of vetting through the Office of Management and Budget.
Okay.
And there's no, the applications aren't going to Councilmember Burrows' office. That's not what's happening. Councilmember Burrows is a member of the council, and because he represents District 8, which is where our local impact area is located, the council is likely to, give, because he represents the area, the council is likely to give some local courtesy to his recommendations. However, there's no applications that are going through his office that are just being rubber stamped.
Okay, so I live in District 8, so I appreciate that clarification. Yeah, so apparently I didn't understand it clearly. Is the caveat here, and I'm just talking this out to make sure I understand it, is that because he's a member of the county council, he can have input into who receives some of this grant money outside of the LCD, correct? Did I say that right?
What do you mean outside of the LDC? I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Like last year when Kimberly and all of us did it, we rated all the applications.
Right.
So this year we won't be rating any.
Yes, you will. Yes, you
Oh,
will.
we will? Okay. All right.
The due date for our grant applications
It's
is
this week. Yeah, I know.
So anyone who may be in the call tonight who might be a potential applicant or who might be viewing this on YouTube later this week, make sure you get your application in by 5 p.m. this Friday. We had a great application process last year. We expect to have another great one this year. Send in your questions last minute so we can get those answered. Yeah, we have grant applicants who are coming in this week. Oh, you're going to be working, so don't worry about that.
No, I understand when they're due. I just wanted to make sure that the process was going to remain the same. So
Same,
that
the same process
everybody
as
has
last year.
oversight.
Everybody's being vetted. The same process as last year is being conducted.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Dr. Huggins?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. My intent is to listen and learn, but a part of my listening is active listening. And so I just want to be clear. 875 is within the purview of this council for grant impact funding. Let me put it that way. Am I correct on that?
870,000.
Okay,
This
870,000.
year, that, I mean, we've had larger amounts of that in the past, depending on what's going on with the tables. But at last year, it was 850 last year, and 850, was 850 this year, Brian?
I'd have to, I don't know.
I think it's 850.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's helpful. And if I'm understanding Mr. Middleton, the remaining 9 million and some change is allocated, one, to the school system. I know there are some upgrades, just in excess of 2.5 million that's being allocated for the schools, workforce development, the police department, and some of those things. Am I on target? Because I've been reading everything you put out. So
That is correct.
that is correct.
Well,
So
you're on target with the exception of the $2.4 million. That's not, that is not going to schools this year, not going to repair of schools the way we've had it in the past.
all right, I'm looking at the attachment and the recommendations, and it says 2.6 is going to 10 schools, elementary schools and middle schools, from
Right.
everything from ADA improvements to security upgrades. And
Okay, you're looking at, I believe.
Looking
you're
at something
looking
that's old.
Yeah,
It's
you're
old?
looking at,
Yeah.
yeah, you're looking
Might
at.
be looking at a prior
last-
document.
I think last year, yeah.
all right, it says 2023 through 2025 multi-year spending plan.
We'll get you the most up-to-date version of the multi-year spending plan.
Okay, because if I'm looking at this as a member of this council, I am certain that there are people in our community who's looking at this too, and it's dated 2023, 2025, and it's on the site as current information. And so maybe if it's not, I don't necessarily want to say this is what we're doing if it's not what we're doing. So to hear this correction, if I had not asked the question, I would not have known that this is out of date and that it's perhaps incorrect. And one of the things we were told in our last session was to make sure we understand this council, every part of it and how it works. And if I'm attempting to understand it and the information is incorrect on the county site, then the constituents that we serve will also get incorrect information. And so this is not an indictment. This is good. So we know I'm gonna still be looking for information so I can do my job with due diligence and intelligently. You know, I wouldn't want to serve a year and we dealing with an old document for 1 year and I not be aware of it. So that's very helpful, but it still helps me understand how the other funds are used, and that our job is to really focus on those impact funds for grant purposes, the grant impact funds, and the other things, the county council and others, I guess I hate to say this word, parcel out for use by other agencies in the county.
Yeah, what we're gonna have to do is update the site to the new changes that were made. I wasn't aware that was on the site, but I'm glad you brought that up. So we're gonna have to update the site on that.
What we have on the site, again, and this speaks to the process. It's FY 2022 to 2024 multi-year spending plan. We have the FY 2023-2025 proposed multi-year spending plan. It's the LDC response attachment. So everything that's there is what was proposed during the process. So during the multi-year spending plan process, what we do is, as we go through the process, we keep the public aware of what's happening during the process. So as the county council makes its recommendations, we put that up. As the LDC makes its recommendations, we put that up. Now, it appears that there may be a glitch on the website where the final multi-year spending plan was not posted. However, what's there currently is correctly labeled. So what we need to do is I will go back into the website and make sure that the final multi-year spending plan is posted. I posted it myself when it passed on the county council. I'm not sure what happened with the website. So we may need to just charge that to technology. But what's there currently is accurate.
Okay. When did you last go on, Dr. Hubbard?
Yesterday.
Yesterday?
I just went on just 30 seconds ago, and what's there right now, it says everything says proposed or it says response. All of that stuff was posted in real time as the process was going, as we do each year.
Okay, I get you. I hear what you're saying, but when you print it out on your computer, there's nothing that says proposed on this paper. Absolutely nothing. You may have labeled it on the website as proposed, but when you, I wish my camera could come on because then I could hold the document up. But when you print it out, it says attachment recommendations and monitoring by the LDC for 2023 through 2025 multi-year spending plan. And it begins with Potomac Landing Elementary. That's the document I'm looking at. And all of these, none of it says proposed.
It's
And
the
so
first word you said was recommendations, though, right?
Yes.
That's what they are. They're recommendations.
Well, well, all right. Semantics. Okay.
That's the word. It's a recommendation. It's not
Yeah.
semantics. That's the word. It's the definition of the word.
You said proposal. Your language was not recommendation. Your
Proposal,
language was
recommendation. Those are synonyms.
proposed spending. Proposed mean this is what we're wanting to spend.
And but they're also being
Recommendations-
recommended.
Okay.
They're being proposed. They're being recommended. Those,
Okay, can we get the
Same thing.
actuals up on the site, Ryan?
yes.
Okay,
Everything.
well-
I will make sure that everything is on the site.
Okay, all right, I think that's what we need to do. We have Senator Muse as Chief of Staff on, Ms. Hall. Ms. Hall, do you have anything that you'd like to say to us? I don't know if she's still on or not. I see Brandon Cooper, but I see Councilman Burrow's face. I want to acknowledge him.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I just left a civic association meeting, so I literally just logged in. So I'm not sure where we are in the agenda, but good evening. I look forward to working with everyone. I'm very excited about the work that we can do together on behalf of the residents of this community. Thank you.
All right, Delegate Turner said she was going to have a representative this evening. Is Delegate Turner's representative on?
Reverend Robinson, you know I'm here. How are you?
How you doing, Miss Liz?
I'm doing just wonderful. I bring you greetings from Delegate Turner. As you all know, she's up in Annapolis working. She just wanted me to let you all know there's a few things that they are working on. Potomac High School, they did a bond bill for the locker room. I think it's inside the gymnasium. They passed a bill that's gone over to the Senate for the reproductive life. And the other thing that she wanted you all to know is that the Forestville, they are working with the Forestville Principality. Forestville is trying to do some reconstructions and stuff, and so they're working on money for them. I think they've already passed some, and they're still working on some other little logistics with that. And that's really all that I have. I'm enjoying listening to everyone speak tonight. I'm learning some things, and I can say for Delegate Turner and myself, of course, you know, when she's not around, I'm around. And so I'm looking forward to being around you as well. I do know that Chief of Staff Hall was on the line. I don't know if she had to get off for a minute. So let me just bring you greetings from Senator Muse's office as well. He's up in Annapolis working as just as hard as Delegate Turner. And so with that being said, good evening to everyone and enjoy your meeting.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. We just want to acknowledge Dr. Praler. She's on, Dina Mims is on, all of the people. Miss Lane, just wanted to acknowledge you guys before we move forward. We have, I see Mr. Taylor's on. He's normally on with us. Mr. Taylor, you have anything you want to say to us?
Good evening, everyone. I don't have anything at this time.
Okay, Mr. Costa. All right, anyone else with any comments before we close out? Mr. Byrd, I'm sorry, I just want to acknowledge you, sir.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me on today, and I'm looking forward to working with you guys. Just joined the county executives team and really looking forward to being a part of this.
Okay.
So Pastor, Michael is my successor as our chief of staff special assistant. So
Okay.
I'm not going anywhere yet, but Michael I'll be handing the baton on.
Okay, so here's the instruction. Everybody give Michael a hard time.
Now you'll still have to give me the hard time for now, but we will
So-
be handing it off to him.
All right, Miss Lane, you have anything you want to add? Miss Dr. Praler, Deanna, Nicole, I'll talk with you offline on these missing reports. We need to press to get these reports, and then myself, Dr. Huggins and Miss Lane will get to work on combing through them to make sure that money has been spent properly. There are a couple of people who I've looked at reports. The money that they received is kind of webbed into everything else of the money that they received. And it's not a way for us to deal with the accountability of those funds. So I've talked to a couple of those people to break that out. We want to see exactly what has happened with that money. There's a couple of people who have reached out to repurpose, and we've given permission to do so. So that's pretty much where we are at this point. Ms. Bethea, you want to have anything you want to say to us, Rashida?
I did have one quick thing. So with those midterm reports that haven't been turned in yet, what is the consequence if they just don't turn them in?
If they just don't turn them in, we'll send them on to audit and inspections. And of course, they do the forensic on how the money was spent, purpose. They get into a thorough detail about how this money is being spent. So we'll recommend them to audit and inspections. As we say, we had 6 that we sent last year. 5 of them came back with serious misuse of funds. What we're attempting to do is to recapture that money. And if not, we will send them either to the state's attorney's office or the attorney general's office for disposition. Anyone else before we close out? Have I caught everybody?
So I have one question, Ryan.
I'm
Are we still on track, Ryan, to for April the 10th to review those reports?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm just trying to get my calendar straight.
Okay, Vice Chair.
No, I don't have anything at this time,
Okay,
but it's good to see we got a nice turnout today, so it's good to see.
okay. Anybody else, any comments before we close out? If I were in church, I would say if all hearts and minds are settled, can I get a vote for dismissal? For adjournment? Ms. Mack?
I second.
Okay, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Want to thank you, Ryan. We'll see you on next week. Nicole, I'll give you a call offline so that we can talk about these missing reports and kind of go from there.
Yes, sir.
Everybody have a good evening.
You too.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Dr. Huggins, I'll be giving you a call offline.
Yes, sir.